Picture this. It's 1633 and Galileo's on trial for daring to say that the earth revolves around the sun. Fast forward 400 years and Bill Nye debates Ken Ham about whether humans walked with dinosaurs. It seems like faith and science are destined to square off forever, like two heavyweight champions who just won't quit. But what if, plot twist, they're not actually opponents, faith and science? What if the fight is rigged, or worse, what if it's all just a massive misunderstanding? Let's talk about it. I'm Theology Jack, your guide for exploring life's questions and mysteries. The supposed war between science and religion is one of the most well-worn cliches of modern discourse. On one side, you've got lab coats, telescopes, and theories of evolution. On the other, ancient texts, rituals, and sermons about walking on water. Cue the inevitable memes about how science flies you to the moon and religion flies you into buildings. Ouch. But is this divide real? Are faith and science inherently opposed like oil and water? Or is this a false dichotomy, hiding a deeper, more intriguing harmony? Today, we're going to tackle this question head on. We'll explore where the conflict narrative came from, unpack some key misconceptions, and brace yourself, propose a radical idea. Faith and science might actually need each other. Ready? Let's go. Let's start by exposing the roots of this so-called war. Contrary to popular belief, faith and science haven't always been enemies. In fact, many of history's greatest scientific pioneers were people of deep faith. Isaac Newton, for instance, wasn't just obsessed with gravity. He also wrote theological treatises on the nature of God. Gregor Mendel, remember the father of genetics? He was a monk. Even Jorge Lemaître, the dude who proposed the Big Bang Theory, he was a Catholic priest. Imagine that. A clergyman came up with the idea that the universe started with a cosmic kaboom. So where does this tension come from? A lot of it, I think, comes from the Enlightenment era, when science began to challenge traditional religious authorities. Then you add in Darwin's theory of evolution in the 19th century, and you've got the rise of the new atheism of the 21st, and you've got the perfect recipe for an us versus them narrative. But here's the thing. Just because two groups occasionally clash doesn't mean they're inherently incompatible. That'd be like saying introverts and extroverts can't coexist. Spoiler alert. They can, and they do. All right, let's bust some of the common myths about this so-called incompatibility. Myth number one, science is about facts, faith is about feelings. This one's a doozy. The idea here is that science deals in the cold, hard truths, while faith is some sort of squishy emotional crutch. But is that fair? Science, at its core, is about forming hypotheses, testing them, and following the evidence wherever it leads. Faith, meanwhile, isn't just about warm fuzzies. It's about grappling with meaning, purpose, and the big questions that science can't answer, at least right now, like why the universe exists in the first place. Think of it like this. Science explains how the engine of the car works. Faith asks why the car is on the road at all. Different tools for different questions. Myth number two, faith rejects evidence. Ever hear someone say, I believe it because the Bible says so, end of story? Sure. That's one version of faith, but that's not the only one. In fact, many faith traditions actively encourage the pursuit of knowledge and evidence. Christianity, for example, speaks of God as a creator who made a universe that's orderly and discoverable, a universe worth studying. That's why so many early scientists were also theologians. Of course, there's the flip side. Sometimes religious communities do resist scientific discoveries that challenge their interpretations of sacred texts. But that's not faith rejecting evidence, it's fear of change. And honestly, that's more about human psychology, I think, than theology. Myth number 3, science has replaced the need for God. It's the old God of the gaps argument, the idea that as science explains more and more and more of the natural world, there's less and less and less room for God. But this is a category error. God isn't just an explanation for stuff we don't understand, like lightning before meteorology. For many people of faith, God is the reason anything exists at all, the ground of being, as theologians like to say. Science can describe the mechanism, but it doesn't tell why the mechanism exists. That's a different question entirely. So here's the radical idea. What if faith and science actually complement each other? Science gives us tools to understand the physical universe, its origins, laws, and intricate design. Faith, meanwhile, gives us tools to explore questions of meaning, ethics, and purpose. Put them together, and I think you get a fuller picture of reality. It's like combining a microscope and a telescope. You need both to see the whole story. Let's get personal for a second. Imagine standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon. Science can explain how it formed over millions of years through erosion. Amazing, right? But it's faith, or at least a sense of wonder, that makes you stand there in awe, pondering your smallness in the face of something so vast. One perspective doesn't cancel out the other. They enhance each other. In fact, some of the most profound scientific discoveries have a deeply spiritual quality. Think about Einstein's theory of relativity or the sheer mind-bending strangeness of quantum mechanics. Even Einstein himself, he famously said, "Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind." Sure, he didn't mean religion in the traditional sense, but his point still holds. The search for truth is bigger than any one discipline. Okay, let's not sugarcoat it. Faith and science do clash sometimes. You've got the evolution and creationism, climate science and certain political, theological agendas, medical ethics and debates about the beginning and the end of life. But here's the thing. These conflicts aren't really about science versus faith. They're about interpretations of faith bumping up against interpretations of science. For example, when some Christians reject evolution, it's not because evolution disproves God, it's because they've been taught that a literal reading of Genesis is the only valid one. Similarly, when some scientists dismiss faith as superstition, it's often because they've encountered rigid, fundamentalist versions of religion. I think the solution? Dialogue, humility, and a willingness to admit that none of us have all the answers. After all, both faith and science are ultimately seeking truth. They're just looking for it in different ways. So is faith compatible with science? The answer depends on what you mean by faith and science. If by faith you mean a rigid anti-intellectual dogmatism, and by science you mean an arrogant dismissal of anything beyond the material world, then yeah, they'll probably clash. But if you see faith as an openness to wonder and science as a method of discovery, then the two can not only coexist, but they can thrive together. Faith and science aren't enemies. They're dance partners in the great cosmic ballroom, each bringing something unique to the table or dance floor, whatever. One reveals the mechanics of the universe, and the other asks why the universe is worth caring about in the first place. Together, they invite us into a deeper, richer understanding of reality. So maybe it's time to stop asking if faith and science are compatible. The better question is, how can we use both to make sense of this wild, beautiful, mysterious universe we call home? If this video made you rethink the war between faith and science, let me know in the comments. Are you team faith, team science, or like me, team why not both? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading everything and might even include your questions or comments in a future video. And hey, click like just to be cool. And if you dig this kind of content, hit subscribe. Let's map ideas that can change the world together. Thanks for watching till the end, fellow explorers. Stay curious and embrace the mystery. This is Theology Jack, signing off.